Chapter 1. Northern Spiritual Academy. In the Great Thousand World, where various planes intersect, countless races emerge, and heroes gather, a heavenly sovereign from a lower plane reenacts a legendary tale in the boundless world, pursuing the path of a lord. In the endless fire domain, the Flame Emperor reigns, his myriad fires incinerating the heavens. Within the martial realm, the martial ancestor's might shakes the universe. In the northern desolate hills, the myriad graves land, the undying Lord suppresses heaven and earth. The Western Heaven Temple, the 100 Battles Emperor, his martial might unbeatable. A young man steps out from the northern spiritual realm, riding a 9 netherworld bird into a chaotic and vibrant world. On the path to becoming a lord, who will rise and who will fall? Great Thousand World, myriad paths contend, I shall be the great lord. The scorching sun, its fiery rays climbing higher, nearly parched the ground below. Weeping willows drooped, their branches and leaves seemingly shrunken, desolate and lifeless. In a bright clearing surrounded by rows of willows, hundreds of people sat silently. They were all young men and women, on the cusp of adulthood. At this moment, they wore serious expressions, their eyes half closed, their breathing steady and rhythmic. With each breath, tiny specks of light, almost imperceptible to the naked eye, seemed to appear around them. A gentle breeze rustled their clothes, creating an unusual beauty. Before these hundreds of people was a stone platform. On the platform, similarly, a person sat silently. His hands were clasped before his chest, eyes tightly shut, as if in a state of cultivation. This person was a young man with soft but slightly messy black hair, a thin, somewhat immature face that gave off a pleasant impression at first glance. Currently, a layer of visible radiance emanated from around the young man. Within this aura, a strange energy seemed to be powerfully entering his body. Below the stone platform, some young men suddenly opened their eyes wide, staring at the aura around the young man on the platform. They couldn't help but lick their lips, their faces revealing a mixture of envy and admiration, before the noisy chatter began, breaking the earlier tranquility. Brother Mew is so amazing. We're still sensing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, and he's already successfully reached the spiritual movement realm. Truly worthy of being the top student of our Eastern Academy's Earth tier. Haha, of course, not just our Eastern Academy, but even in this Northern Spiritual Academy, I'm afraid there aren't many people of the same age who can compare to Brother Mew. A gray-robed young man seated in front seemed to know the person on the stone platform, so when he heard these discussions, he couldn't help but smile smugly and say softly, in this entire Northern Spiritual realm, only Brother Mew was chosen to participate in the spiritual road. Do you guys know how abnormal those who participate in the spiritual road are? That year, our entire northern spiritual realm was stirred up because of it. Those who emerge from that place will all be accepted by the 5 great academies. 5 great academies? Many young people, hearing this highly famous name, couldn't help but swallow, their eyes filled with longing. That place was a dream, a yearning that every young person always strived for. But the 5 great academies' selection was extremely strict, so everyone who could enter was a genius. As long as one entered there, their future would be immensely broad. Although Brother Mew is very formidable, I heard that he was the first person to be expelled from the spiritual road before it even ended. It seems he was only there for a year. Another young man hesitated for a moment before speaking, then quickly added, we all know Brother Mew's abilities. He couldn't possibly be inferior to those monstrous geniuses from all over the Great Thousand World in the spiritual road. He must have been expelled due to unfair treatment. The young men and women exchanged glances. At the Northern Spiritual Academy, and even the Northern Spiritual Realm, this wasn't really a secret. They felt regret, and at the same time, they were curious to know why someone as outstanding as Brother Mew, whom even their arrogant group admired, was expelled from the spiritual road. The gray-robed young man slightly curled his lip, dismissively saying, HMPH, it must be someone in the spiritual road who was jealous of Brother Mew and used dirty tricks to force him out. But it doesn't matter. With Brother Mew's ability, he'll be able to enter the 5 great academies sooner or later. By then, everyone will naturally know the truth. The group looked at each other. Although they all knew Brother Mew's talent was excellent, the 5 great academies weren't easy to enter. After all, he had only cultivated for 1 year on the spiritual road and might. Chapter 2. The youth expelled from the spiritual road. When Su Ling and the others looked up at the senior students from the Western Academy on the high platform, their momentum diminished slightly. Especially when they saw the girl named Hong Ling, Their eyes lit up with fervor, but they quickly lowered their heads. She was one of the most prominent figures at Bei Ling Academy, and she had no shortage of admirers in the Eastern Academy. Brother Mu, isn't that senior sister Hong Ling from the Western Academy? I heard that when you were younger, you really liked her. Su Ling, standing close to Mu Chen, whispered with a chuckle. Hearing this, Mu Chen rolled his eyes. When he was younger, he had indeed played with Hong Ling, but at such a young age, he didn't understand what it meant to like someone. He simply wanted a playmate. Over the past few years, his father had fallen out with Hong Ling's father, causing their relationship to drift apart. He couldn't fathom where such rumors had come from. Mu Chen could only shake his head in resignation and turn to look at Lu Jiao, who was standing there with a provocative expression. A faint glow of spiritual energy began to emanate from Mu Chen's body, and his hands slowly clenched into fists. If you have something to say, spit it out. Mu Chen glanced at the group on the platform not far away, his gaze briefly lingering on the slender, beautiful figure before shifting elsewhere. Don't think you can say whatever you want just because they're here. Even if they stop me, your flesh will still suffer some pain. He truly disliked the arrogant and haughty demeanor of the Western Academy students. Lu Jiao's eyes blazed with anger. Just as he was about to retort, he noticed the corner of Mu Chen's mouth curl slightly. In that moment, the gentle and radiant youth suddenly exuded a chilling aura. That coldness was like the edge of an icy blade. It felt like the sudden arrival of Jingjia, the awakening of insects, from the clouds, inadvertently revealing a terrifying sharpness. This was definitely not something an ordinary youth of his age could possess. Lu Jiao swallowed the curses he was about to hurl. He looked at Mu Chen in astonishment, his expression shifting. Truthfully, he was somewhat wary of Mu Chen's strength, as he had witnessed Mu Chen defeating Shui Dong from the Western Academy previously. Haha, I may have been a bit reckless. The senior students from the Western Academy's Heaven Realm frowned upon hearing this, feeling somewhat humiliated, especially with Hong Ling present. Hong Ling, too, looked at Mu Chen with surprise. She hadn't expected this gentle-looking youth to have such a fierce side, completely different from the boy she knew years ago. One of the senior students from the Western Academy's Heaven Realm couldn't hold back. He leapt down from the platform and slowly approached the Eastern Academy students. Seeing this, Su Ling and the others quickly stepped back, their eyes filled with caution. Hong Ling didn't intervene, partly because she was from the Western Academy, and partly because she was curious to see if the unremarkable boy from her memories could shine now that he had shed his childhood innocence. Brother Tong, Lu Jiao greeted the approaching figure with a gleeful expression, his gaze toward Mu Chen tinged with smugness. Mu Chen frowned slightly but showed no fear. Although these seniors were from the Heaven Realm, their strength was only at the early stage of the spiritual movement realm. If it came to a fight, they wouldn't necessarily have the upper hand. The one called Brother Tong nodded slightly, sizing up Mu Chen. Just as he was about to speak, a loud shout rang out from nearby. Tong Guan, you Heaven Realm folks from the Western Academy are coming to our Eastern Academy to bully our Earth Realm disciples. Are you looking down on us? The sudden shout startled everyone, and they turned to look. A dozen figures were approaching quickly, led by a tall, slender girl dressed in tight black clothing that accentuated her graceful curves. Her beautiful face, long black hair tied into a ponytail, and slender, elegant legs made her no less striking than Hong Ling. At that moment, the girl sneered at Tong Guan and his group, while those behind her also wore displeased expressions. That's senior sister Tian'er. Seeing the girl in black, Su Ling and the others immediately grew excited, some of the younger boys' faces even flushing red. This girl, along with Hong Ling, was considered one of the two flowers of Bei Ling Academy. Both had countless admirers, and no one expected to see them both here today. Haha, so it's Tian'er. Tong Guan froze upon seeing the girl in black, his expression slightly uneasy. Tang Tian'er wasn't just popular at Bei Ling Academy. Her strength had reached the middle stage of the spiritual. The girl called Tang Tian'er walked over to stand beside Mu Chen. She frowned delicately as she observed Tong Guan, then glanced up at Hong Ling on the platform. The two girls locked eyes, neither yielding, their gazes sparking with intensity. What are you all doing here? Tang Tian'er looked away, asking coldly. Why so harsh, Tian'er? We may be from the Western Academy, but it's still part of Bei Ling Academy. What's wrong with us coming here? Tong Guan shrugged with a smile. Tang Tian'er snorted, then reached out and patted Mu Chen's shoulder, tilting her chin as she said, Mu Chen is one of us from the Eastern Academy. If you dare cause trouble for him again, don't blame me for being unkind." With that, she flicked her ponytail, exuding the bold aura of a big sister. "Seems like you're quite popular with the ladies," Tong Guan said with a smile, his tone laced with mocking envy. He had always paid attention to Tang Tian'er but had never received her favor. "Being popular with girls is a kind of strength," Mu Chen replied with a smile, as if oblivious to the sarcasm in Tong Guan's words. Compared to the people he had encountered in the spiritual road, Tong Guan was still too green. Hong Ling, watching from the platform, felt a pang of disappointment and slowly shifted her gaze away. Perhaps she thought he was still the timid and lazy boy from before? "Let's drop it. We didn't come here to cause trouble, just to deliver a message." Seeing that he couldn't provoke Mu Chen, Tong Guan lost interest and waved to Lu Jiao behind him. Lu Jiao smirked and said, "Mu Chen, I'm passing on a message from brother Lu Yang. 10 days from now, he'll choose you as his opponent in the competition between the two academies." Lu Yang? At the mention of this name, Su Ling and the others' expressions changed. Senior brother Lu Yang was the strongest in the Western Academy's Earth realm. Rumor had it he had recently reached the spiritual movement realm. Oh, I forgot to mention, 3 days ago, during a test, it was discovered that brother Lu Yang possesses a spiritual vein in his body, though it's only at the human level. Lu Jiao said with a gloating smile, looking at Mu Chen. A human-level spiritual vein? This revelation shocked Su Ling and the others, and even Tang Tian'er, standing nearby, was taken aback. In the entire Bei Ling Academy, the number of disciples with a spiritual vein could be counted on one hand. No one had expected Lu Yang to be one of them. A human-level spiritual vein, huh? Tong Guan smirked at Mu Chen with pity. Lu Yang might only be at the early stage of the spiritual movement realm, but with a human-level spiritual vein, even those at the middle stage might struggle to defeat him. Mu Chen was truly unlucky. Brother Lu Yang said it's fine if you don't accept the challenge. Just don't show up, and he won't make things difficult for you. Lu Jiao laughed loudly. If Mu Chen didn't show up that day, his reputation in the Eastern Academy would likely be ruined. You're bullying him too far. Tang Tian'er snapped, her brows furrowing sharply. Sister Tian'er, the ones bullying others aren't us. He'd better know his place. Don't think that just because he was lucky enough to qualify for the spiritual road, he can look down on others, Lu Jiao sneered. You, Tang Tian'er was about to charge forward in anger, but someone grabbed her wrist. She turned to see Mu Chen's youthful face break into a radiant smile. It's fine, go tell Lu Yang I'll be waiting for him. Impressive, we'll look forward to your splendid performance that day. Lu Jiao gave Mu Chen a thumbs up, his lips curling into a smirk, then turned and left with a loud laugh. His demeanor clearly showed he was eagerly anticipating the battle in 10 days. After Lu Jiao and Tong Guan left, Hong Ling, still on the platform, gave them a brief glance before turning and walking away. Brother Mu, are you really going to accept Lu Yang's challenge? If he really has a spiritual vein, he'll be tough to deal with, Su Ling said worriedly, watching the retreating figures of Tong Guan and his group. I'll do my best, Mu Chen replied casually. Hey, are you okay? They're clearly provoking you. You could totally refuse this kind of challenge, Tang Tian'er said, exasperated. Don't worry, Sister Tian'er. I know my limits, Mu Chen said with a slight smile. Tang Tian'er frowned, her bright eyes fixed on the gentle smile on Mu Chen's youthful face. For some reason, she felt there was something hidden deep in his eyes. HMPH, it's not my face on the line anyway, Tang Tian'er huffed, clearly annoyed. Seems like Sister Tian'er cares a lot about my reputation? Mu Chen teased, unable to resist poking fun at her sulky expression. Why would I care about you? Tang Tian'er's face flushed slightly. She glared at Mu Chen and snapped, I'm just worried that if you get beaten to a pulp, it'll disgrace our Eastern Academy. Mu Chen laughed. Tang Tian'er's father was also one of the domain lords in the Bei Ling territory, and he had a very good relationship with Mu Chen's father. The two families often interacted, so their relationship was quite close. By the way, I just got some news, Tang Tian'er said, waving Su Ling and the others away before looking directly at Mu Chen. I heard from the dean that the spiritual road has officially ended. Mu Chen's body stiffened slightly, then he looked up and sighed. So it's finally over. I heard that this spiritual road produced quite a few monstrous talents. Even more terrifying, there was someone with a heaven-level spiritual vein, a rarity seen once in 1,000 years. The 5 great academies fought tooth and nail to recruit him. Spiritual veins greatly aid cultivation and are divided into 3 levels: heaven, earth, and human. Those with spiritual veins cultivate far faster than ordinary people. Over the years, Bei Ling Academy had never had anyone with an earth-level spiritual vein, let alone a heaven-level one, showing just how rare they are. Tang Tian'er stuck out her pink tongue, looking adorable and charming. A heaven-level spiritual vein? I've never seen one. Those who participate in the spiritual road are truly monstrous. Oh, I forgot. You participated in the spiritual road too. Do you know who that person is? His name is Ji Zan, I think? Mu Chen said nonchalantly, recalling the name etched deeply in his memory. You know his name? Tang Tian'er asked in surprise. Yeah, I know. He's pretty formidable. Mu Chen smiled, his eyes lowering slightly. I almost took him down. Tang Tian'er's beautiful eyes widened as she stared in shock at the suddenly cold expression on Mu Chen's youthful face. Really? Of course it's a joke. You actually believe that? I'm just some guy who got kicked out halfway through the spiritual road. How could I compare to someone who made the 5 great academies fight over him? Mu Chen's cold expression vanished, and he burst into laughter at Tang Tian'er's stunned look. Tang Tian'er gritted her teeth, as if she wanted to bite him, but she held herself together and said softly, You've just reached the spiritual movement realm, so you haven't cultivated a spiritual art yet, right? I heard that Lu Yang has already started cultivating one. A spiritual art? I'll practice one when I get home. My father said that once I reach the spiritual movement realm, I should return home, Mu Chen said with a smile. Alright, I'll head off then. Tang Tian'er nodded slightly. After all, Mu Chen's father was a domain lord in the Bei Ling territory, so he would surely choose the best spiritual art for Mu Chen. Without thinking further, she waved goodbye, flicked her ponytail, and left. Oh, one more thing. Tang Tian'er suddenly stopped and turned back to Mu Chen. After a moment's thought, she said, If you're not confident about winning, I'll help you deal with Lu Yang, okay? Though his big brother might be a bit troublesome. You think I can't win? Mu Chen shook his head helplessly, amazed she'd even suggest such a thing. HMPH, don't take my kindness for granted. Tang Tian'er replied, clearly annoyed. At Bei Ling Academy, others would beg for her help, yet this kid was always so infuriating. With that thought, she stormed off. Watching Tang Tian'er's graceful figure walk away, Mu Chen smiled and murmured to himself, if the spiritual road has ended, she must have already entered one of the 5 great academies. I wonder which one. He recalled the moment before he left, in that lush forest, where a girl with long silver hair had silently gazed at him with deep green eyes. I'll wait for you at the 5 great academies. If you don't come, the girl's delicate hands tightly gripped a black longsword, slowly raising it to point at her chest, the tip resting over her heart. I'll take him down for you, but... She stared at him, her eyes clear as crystal. I don't like people who easily accept defeat. But at least back then, you didn't lose. I was really happy. A breeze rustled through, making her long silver hair flutter. Her usually cold, fair face flushed slightly, a fleeting moment that stirred the heart. So, he absolutely had to go. Mu territory, Mu city. As Mu Chen stepped out of the teleportation spirit array, the bustling noise of this prosperous city immediately filled his ears. He smiled, taking in the vibrant sights of Mu city. Mu city is the central hub of the Mu territory, and Mu Chen's father, Mu Feng, is the lord of this domain. Young master, you're back from the Bei Ling Academy? Quick, inform the domain lord. Around the teleportation spirit array, guards from the Mu territory were stationed. Upon seeing the youth emerge from the array, they were momentarily startled but quickly gathered around him with joy. Thank you all, but I can head back on my own, Mu Chen said with a warm smile to the guards. Having grown up here, he was well known to them. Despite being the son of the domain lord, his friendly demeanor made him well liked throughout Mu city. After bidding farewell to the enthusiastic guards, he hurriedly made his way home. A short while later, a grand mansion came into view, with the large characters, Mu Manor, carved at its entrance. The entrance to Mu Manor was, of course, heavily guarded, but Mu Chen paid no mind and dashed straight inside. Recognizing him, the guards smiled, saluted, and returned to their duties. Father, Mu Chen burst into the manor and rushed to the reception hall, where 2 men were seated. On the main seat sat a man in a black robe, his sturdy frame exuding strength, his posture straight as a spear. His resolute face bore traces of silver in his hair, giving him a weathered air, though one could faintly discern that in his youth, he must have been strikingly handsome. This was Mu Feng, Mu Chen's father and the lord of the Mu territory. Seated below Mu Feng was a lean, middle-aged man with deep-set eyes and a somewhat sinister appearance, his thin lips pressed into a cold expression. However, when he saw Mu Chen burst into the hall, his icy demeanor softened, replaced by a warm, friendly smile. "You're back, so why all the shouting?" Mu Feng set down what he was holding, scolding the youth at the door with a smile, his eyes filled with deep affection. "Domain Lord, it's rare for little Mu to come home, so it's only natural he's a bit excited," the lean middle-aged man said with a chuckle. "Only Uncle Joe understands me," Mu Chen said, sitting down and grinning at the man with a familiar tone. Uncle Joe, named Zhou Yi, was his father's sworn brother. Years ago, Zhou Yi and Mu Feng had fought side by side across the Beiling territory, helping Mu Feng become the lord of the Mu territory. Zhou Yi had also cared for Mu Chen since childhood, treating him like his own son, so their bond was strong. "Oh, you've reached the spiritual movement realm?" Mu Feng smiled, then widened his eyes in surprise, looking at Mu Chen with delight. Hearing this, Zhou Yi looked at Mu Chen with astonishment, indeed sensing the fluctuations of spiritual energy emanating from his body. "I only just reached it," Mu Chen said with a slight nod, his tone calm and not overly proud. "So you've come back this time for a spiritual art, haven't you?" Mu Feng said with a smile. "Only those who have reached the spiritual movement realm can cultivate spiritual arts, which allow the full potential of spiritual energy to be unleashed. If I don't cultivate a spiritual art, it'll be hard to deal with my opponent in 10 days, Mu Chen said, pursing his lips. Seeing the questioning looks from Mu Feng and Zhou Yi, he briefly recounted the challenge from Lu Yang. "The Lu family really has no decent people," Zhou Yi said coldly, his eyes narrowing. "The Lu family has grown more arrogant over the years. Even though Lu territory is considered the top domain in the Beiling territory, do they think our Mu territory is a soft persimmon to be squeezed?" Mu Feng brushed it off with a smile. "I didn't expect that Lu Yang would have a spiritual vein. The Lu family is quite fortunate. It's only a human-level spiritual vein," Zhou Yi said dismissively, though his brows furrowed slightly. He looked at Mu Chen and said, "Lu Yang is also at the early stage of the spiritual movement realm, like you, but with a spiritual vein aiding him, even those at the middle stage might struggle against him. Little Mu, are you confident?" Mu Chen smiled. He had once faced someone with a heaven-level spiritual vein. Compared to that, what was a human-level spiritual vein like Lu Yang's? That kid was far from matching the monstrous talents in the spiritual road. Mu Feng observed his son's youthful face. He sensed that Mu Chen had changed slightly since returning from the spiritual road. Though the boy appeared gentle and refined on the surface, Mu Feng, with his experience, could detect a hidden coldness and pride beneath that demeanor. This aura was like a dormant dragon, silent until it roared, striking like thunder. This change both surprised and delighted Mu Feng. He had always been attentive to his only son. Though he was curious about why Mu Chen was expelled from the spiritual road, since his son didn't speak of it, he didn't press. He trusted that his son would not disappoint him. "Come, I'll take you to choose a spiritual art," Mu Feng said, standing up and waving for his son to follow as he headed toward the back courtyard. Mu Chen responded and quickly followed. Mu Chen trailed his father to the back courtyard, stopping before a stone door guarded by numerous sentries. Mu Feng raised his hand, and a powerful surge of spiritual energy formed a beam of light that enveloped the stone door. Standing behind his father, Mu Chen felt the immense spiritual fluctuations and couldn't help but stick out his tongue. His father, a master of the spirit stage, was truly formidable. The initial stage of cultivation is the sensing realm, where one senses the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Next is the spiritual movement realm, where cultivators can absorb spiritual energy into their bodies. After that is the spiritual rotation realm, where spiritual energy condenses into a wheel, far surpassing the spiritual movement realm in its ability to harness spiritual power. Beyond the spiritual rotation realm is the spirit stage, a significant milestone in cultivation. Mu Feng was at this stage. Reaching the spirit stage marks one as a true powerhouse in the Beiling territory, with combat strength far exceeding that of the spiritual rotation realm. This is because those at the spirit stage gain a unique ability, the refinement of beast spirits. These so-called beast spirits are the essence of myriad creatures in the world. Refining a beast spirit allows one to harness its spiritual power, which, when combined with one's own spiritual energy, significantly enhances combat strength. In this world, there exists the myriad beast record, divided into heaven and earth rankings, cataloging countless spiritual beasts. The beast spirit Mu Feng had refined, obtained by chance years ago, was the dragon flame vulture, ranked 85th on the earth ranking of the myriad beast record. Mu Feng's rise to prominence in the Beiling territory and his establishment as the lord of a domain owed much to this dragon flame vulture spirit. Creak. As Mu Chen's thoughts wandered, the heavy stone door slowly opened, emitting a creaking sound. As the door opened, an ancient air rushed out. Mu Feng waved his hand and stepped inside, with Mu Chen quickly following. Beyond the stone door was a secret chamber, dimly lit by flickering flames. Rows of stone bookshelves came into view, each holding jade slips that faintly glowed with a soft light. Mu Chen's eyes sparkled as he gazed at the jade slips in the chamber. Clearly, each one contained a spiritual art. Mu Feng brushed his hand, glancing around the chamber with a casual look before smiling faintly. Everything I have is in this chamber. Choose freely, and let's see what spiritual art you'll pick.